Welcome, everyone. The first Sunday of Lent tells this incredible story that really spans all of human history, from a perfect, lush garden all the way to a barren desert. So in this explainer, we're going to unpack how this ancient story sets the stage for the entire 40-day journey of Lent.
Okay, so let's just get right to it with the question that kind of gets to the heart of the season. Why would a period that's all about spiritual growth and renewal start with a story about an epic failure? I mean, it seems a little backward, right? Well, as we're about to see, understanding this failure is absolutely essential to the whole journey. All right, so to really get the solution, we first have to wrap our heads around the problem. And that story, the one that really defines the human condition according to these texts, it all starts in a garden with one simple command. So let's jump back to the very beginning, the book of Genesis. God creates this perfect world, right? A garden of plenty, everything you could ever want. And he gives humanity just one rule to follow. Just one. This whole setup is the foundation for what we call original sin. And this massive world-changing moment, it really just boils down to three simple steps. First, you've got the serpent, planting a seed of doubt. Then Adam and Eve make a choice. They disobey. And boom, with that one choice, sin enters the world. It's like this domino effect that just changes, well, everything. And that one act of disobedience, it didn't just stay put in the garden. Nope. Its consequences rippled out, affecting not just Adam and Eve, but, well, all of us. So, fast forward a bit. The Apostle Paul, in his letter to the Romans, he kind of breaks down what this all means. He explains how that one act had these massive universal consequences. He basically argues that because of that first slip-up, sin, and what comes with it, death, became a part of the human experience for everyone. And the human response to this new reality, it is just so powerfully captured in Psalm 51. This isn't someone shaking their fist to the sky. No, this is a cry of just deep recognition, a plea for mercy. It's the sound of a heart that totally gets its own brokenness and is just desperate for a fresh start.
Okay, now let's jump forward thousands of years. The scene changes completely. We go from that lush garden, a place of total ease, to a harsh, desolate wilderness, a place of real hardship. And it's right here that a totally new, decisive story begins to unfold.
This is where we see a direct showdown. After 40 days of fasting, when he's at his absolute weakest physically, Jesus comes face to face with the exact same source of temptation that caused that first fall. This is no random meeting, you guys. This is a spiritual rematch. So Jesus faces this three-pronged attack, right? Each one is a different category of temptation. First, the temptation of the flesh, satisfying his hunger. Then the temptation of pride, basically showing off to prove who he is. And finally, the temptation of glory, a shortcut to get worldly power. So when he's tempted to just turn those stones into bread and eat, Jesus fires back with this foundational truth. He basically says that our spiritual food, that connection to God's word, is way more important than even our most basic physical needs. Next, when the devil tries to egg him on, do this big spectacle to prove God's got your back, he just shuts it down. He shows that real faith doesn't need to see signs or try to force God's hand. It just trusts. And then comes the final offer, all the kingdoms of the world for just one little act of worship. And his rejection is just absolute. He makes it crystal clear. Ultimate loyalty and service belong to God, and God alone. He completely slams the door on any shortcut to power. Okay, so this right here, this is the absolute heart of the story. Jesus' victory out there in the desert isn't just some personal win. It is a direct reversal, a complete undoing of Adam's failure back in the garden. And this slide right here, this is the absolute key to the whole thing. Just look at the insane contrast. You've got Adam in a garden full of everything, and he chooses disobedience. Then you have Christ in a barren desert with nothing, and he chooses perfect obedience. Adam's choice, it brings sin and death. Christ's choice, it opens the door to grace and life. That's exactly why he's called the new Adam.
And you got to understand, this contrast isn't just some clever storytelling trick. It's a core teaching about our redemption. The Catechism of the Catholic Church really nails it down. Christ's obedience isn't just for himself. Its effects, what the Church calls grace, which is basically God's free gift, it just overflows for everyone.
Okay, so this brings us full circle, right back to our original question. Why does the Church kick off Lent with this super intense story of a fall and then a redemption? I mean, what does it really have to do with us today?
Well, this story is basically the blueprint for the entire season of Lent. Those 40 days, they mirror Jesus' 40 days on the desert. It's the set-aside time to get ready for Easter by facing our own stuff, our own temptations. But here's the key. Not with our own strength, but by trying to imitate Jesus' total reliance on God. And we do that through those classic Lenten practices: fasting, prayer, and almsgiving, which is just given to others.
And that leaves us with one final thought, something to really chew on. This connects this ancient story directly to you and me. See, this isn't just a story about Adam or about Jesus. It's really an invitation for us to look at our own lives and ask, where is my desert? Where are those places I feel weak or challenged? And what are my temptations? The point isn't to despair, but to face them with the hope that comes from knowing how this story ends, with victory.